Awesome. Okay, so my name's Troy Hooker, and I kind of help manage authors through the process from start to finish. And if you haven't noticed, we are in our bus on the road, which makes this live event all that more technical.
Difficult sometimes, yeah, difficult.
But anyway, Stacy, introduce yourself too.
I'm Stacy, and I do a lot of the graphic design work. I get to work with the cover artists. I get to do the interior design of the book, cover to cover. And I get to also work with, the map makers and stuff like that, even though you did a lot of the map this time.
Yes. Yes.
So I get to do all that, a lot of advertisements, and just graphic stuff. Make things pretty. That's what I like to say. I also get to call the red flag on anything stupid Troy says tonight. So here's my red flag.
Okay, go ahead and comment if I've already said something stupid, please.
I'm also going to be monitoring comments on the computer, so you'll see me. I'll be the one commenting back, and so I'm just a viewer on here, and so I'll just be commenting back and forth and letting Troy know what you guys are saying and stuff like that. That way he can just kind of focus and move forward with everything. So.
Okay, so Stacy, first thing before we go any further, we have a couple of giveaways tonight. Can you tell us about those?
So we're doing a couple of signed copies for Infernal Fall, but then also we were traveling around and we found this beautiful mug. And the color, you can't see the color in the video. I was looking at it earlier in the video. You cannot see it. This looks brown, but it is actually a nice, rusty red color, and it honestly matches the cover to Infernal Fall really well. So that's 3 different giveaways that we're doing. So this is hand-thrown, beautiful, because it's National Coffee Day. So I hope you guys all have your coffee. So 3 giveaways we're doing, and how you can do that is just leave a comment on this video, share the video, and then just come back, comment, let me know that you had shared it. And we will later, after the video is all done, Troy and I will just stick little names and hats, and we will draw it out and figure out who that is. We'll get in contact with you and let you know. So I hope you guys like those giveaways. I know we had fun picking out the mug.
Are you kidding? It was hard enough to keep her from just keeping the mug to begin with.
Oh, that is true. I am a mug hoarder.
Okay, so we are super excited today because we are interviewing the author of Infernal Fall, Bryan Mitchell. And Bryan this is his debut novel into the world, and we are super excited about that. And it's a modern take on an old classic. And so we'll talk more about that later. But Bryan sent us his manuscript sometime last year, and we were super interested in the concept that he pitched to us, so much so that, we had to, talk to him about it. And so, through a series of circumstances, we got to know Bryan. And now we're here today. We're about to release this amazing book. And if you haven't seen the cover yet, you need to see that. I think there's a link posted in the chat if everything is working correctly.
Everyone was talking about the link earlier, so yeah.
Okay, one thing that works.
One thing worked.
So before we introduce him, I wanted to take a minute and just thank all of you for jumping onto this live event. We're going to try to keep it short now. I know it's past 8:20 now, but that's fine. And right now, Infernal Fall is in pre-order. It's only 99 cents, so if you have a chance to go and pre-order that, this is a great time to do it. The price will increase after October 25th when it releases. And so you can go to Amazon, you can go to the link and take care of that whenever you need to. And then it's the ebook will be sent automatically to your device on October 25th. The other thing I wanted to do, and I didn't want to forget this either, but just wanted to take a minute and just, remind all of us that to be in prayer for those in the path of the hurricane. I know that's been on a lot of, everyone's mind, and it's been on my mind all day. And so if you have a few minutes, just go ahead and take a few minutes and pray for the the survivors of that hurricane. I know, and it's still not over yet. So, but I wanted to thank those people that were involved in the process. Obviously, Bryan did an amazing job with the story. Dawn, you were incredible as an editor, and you should know that. And I know Bryan would echo those sentiments as well. Damon Freeman for his awesome cover. Yep. And Stacy for the interior design and the formatting of the book and all that stuff. And then we have this awesome guy from the Netherlands named Chaim who did the map. And when that releases, you'll get to see that as well. So we just want to thank all of those people involved. So thank you so much for the contribution to that. So without further ado, let me introduce the author of Infernal Fall. This is the first author of Descendant Publishing, and probably a whole lot more technical than we are. And maybe he can host the next live event. We'll see. And a super cool guy, Bryan Timothy Mitchell. Bryan, are you there still?
I'm here, man. If you guys are on the road, who's driving right now?
No. We're parked. We are parked in a campground. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's a little cold up here in Ludington, Michigan, and so we had to park and get electricity for our heater in order for it to work. So, not on the road currently.
All right. Well, as long as everybody's safe.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Okay, so Bryan, I was hoping you could introduce yourself and just give us a bit about your background and what got you into writing.
Well, I'm not only a silly person, like a lot of people who are in the chat, they already know I'm a silly person, but I'm also like a deep thinker. Part of the reason why I went into get an English degree and also a computer science degree. I just like to dig in and think deeply on whatever I'm involved in. So when I get past the surface of a story or something, I'm always looking for a deeper meaning in it. And I do that in life too. Like I know I'm not the only one that sees a lot of meaning in life, deeper meanings, not just what's in front of our face, but the story behind the story of our life. So that's what really drove me to writing, because I think it'd be kind of cool to have that kind of interaction, because that's one thing we do to kind of come together as people. We share stories, and I'm just reaching out and hopefully entertaining and inspiring other people to reach out and do the same.
I'm assuming Eddie is a friend of yours. He says can confirm, and I assume that's to the silly part that you mentioned.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of stories I can tell you with me and Eddie.
I bet.
Well, I'm asking the next question. Why don't you go get a cord, because I'm afraid now that we have your phone in action, it might die.
Okay.
So, So I know we really enjoyed getting to know you and your family, especially like going out to dinner with you at Realm Makers, Bryan. Like I said, we have Realm Makers to thank for that. So do you want to give us a little bit of background about how you came to work with us and Descendant Publishing?
Well, I was about to self-publish, and so I was like, I'm not really going to land an agent. Kind of tired of querying publishers, and I started thinking, I could really self-publish this, and I won't, and I will get to keep on moving and get into my next story. But I started looking at how much it costs to really put out a quality product. The editing alone for a lot of professional editors is just way up in the thousands, and then you have to look at the book covers, the interior design, the marketing. There's just so much time and money to put into it. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I really want to do that. And luckily at that Realm Makers, I saw you guys virtually, because I wasn't there physically, but I saw y'all virtually, and I thought, you know what? I looked at y'all's website. I thought it was cool. And I said, well, let me try these guys, see how they're going. And we just kept talking, and through the whole contract thing, I just felt like I had a really good connection with you guys. Y'all were willing to work with me the whole time. So I didn't feel like I was going to have to self-publish. That way you're alone. But this way I have a team of people who are invested in the same thing that I am. So I'm ecstatic. I'm happy that I met you guys and got to work with Dawn.
Yeah.
And I mean, the cover is amazing. The interior design is amazing. No one has really seen that yet, but it's going to look really good. I'm really excited for the readers.
Yeah, that cover, I'm just like, I love that cover so much. And we can confirm that self-publishing is kind of it's a lonely road. That's where Descendant Publishing even came from. So I know you're excited. We're excited about the upcoming release. Do you want to give a synopsis of the story and maybe a bit about what inspired you to do the story?
Yeah, I'll do that. There's a really good blurb on Amazon, and I'm not going to beat that, but here we go. Daniel Strong is a troubled young man who falls into Dante's Inferno, but his guide isn't anywhere near as trustworthy as Virgil. Instead of Virgil, a strange man named Charles guides him to Satan to bargain for his freedom. Daniel follows this monster, and with each step he takes toward the bottom of hell, he feels more and more hopeless. Will he succumb to the lies that are pulling him down, or will he find there's another way? And what really drove me to writing this story was over a decade ago. I got out of the Army, I started school, and then I decided, you know what, I need to do more. So I decided to join the Army Reserves while working full-time and going to school full-time. And it was just this vicious cycle. I had very little rest, and it was just a moment where, like, you know what, I really am looking forward to graduating college so I don't have to do so much. But it was in those times where I just held on to hope that eventually things were going to get better. And there were, even in that vicious cycle, there were good days. Like you have to take solace in the moment, honestly. I was working at a call center, and people had to call me about their credit card problems, and I was constantly getting barraged about insurance rates and late fees. I felt like the bad guy, and that was for 8 hours a day, and then I had to go sit down and read my textbooks and everything. And even though that's really small stuff, a lot of people have a lot worse stories than that, the kind of hells they went through. But that's what kind of that's what drove me to wanting to write this story. And I actually started back then, but it took so long because I kept learning more and more about writing.
There's a lot of fulfillment that you can find in writing. Me personally as an author, I can attest to that as well. And it's as soon as you start writing, you want to do more and more and more. So, yeah, I definitely think that's awesome.
I can confirm with knitting.
She's the knitter.
I knit.
Okay, Bryan, Charles. I know he's kind of the bad guy. He's one of the characters in the story, but he's my favorite. I don't know if it's a sarcasm. Maybe I'm like a closet sarcastic or something. Anyone on this live, can you confirm that I might be a closet sarcastic? Is that even a thing? I don't know. Okay. But anyway, Charles. He's a really interesting character. Could you give us a little bit of info? There goes the flag.
Flag on the play.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of info on who Charles, and then also Bo, because he's central to the story as well, and the roles that they play with Daniel as they travel through hell?
I can talk about Charles all day. He just kind of popped up, Bo was always there with Daniel in the earlier editions of this book, but after a critique, I was thinking, you know what, I really need another character, and then in stepped Charles, like the way he is, and he was always the way he was from the very beginning, and I grew to like Charles too. And some of the things that happens along the way, I had no idea what was going to be uncovered, but along the way, you learn so much about Charles, and it's hard not to have empathy for him. And he learns a lot about himself along the way. So, yeah, I don't want to say he's my favorite character, because I really like Daniel and Bo, too, because they've been with me a little bit longer. But Charles was just so easy to write because he's just who he is. But, yeah, he's a harvester. He harvests the dead souls that fall into hell, and that's at a valley that's close to where he stays at. He lives at a soul cache where it's real close to the soul trials, where they put each dead soul on trial. And he walks over to the Purging Mountains, which is a shout out to Purgatory. But he walks over there where the Valley of Death is, and gathers the souls and takes them back to where they're judged. And that's all he has to do. And he hates his job, not because he has empathy for these people or any kind of sympathy. He just thinks he deserves more. And when he meets Daniel, he knows that he has an opportunity to show other demons, higher ranking demons, that he can do more by taking him all the way to the bottom of hell where Satan is. Because Daniel fell into hell alive. Now, Bo is an earthly spirit. We don't see him, but there's a lot of lore out there about the Shadow Man. And sometimes you see him with like a fedora on his head, and people are like eerie of him and wary of him and think it's really dark and sinister. But I haven't heard a lot about anything bad that they do. So when I was coming up with the story, I was thinking, what is Bo? Because originally I had him as a person who was in limbo, but very resourceful. So I thought, you know what, he could be one of these shadow spirits. And what do they do anyway? So I thought, what they do is they walk around in the land of the living, unseen as shadows, and they assist whoever has passed away to move on to their next place, whether it be hell or heaven. And the thing with Bo is he doesn't like his job either. He has a lot of melancholy in him after doing this for many, many years. So he gives it up. The tool he uses to send people on is a stone. And he just kind of ditches it and walks away. And Daniel, poor Daniel, finds that stone.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was awesome. Okay, so talking about that, you've gotten into the story a little bit. Hell is one of those concepts that kind of make us all nervous. I'm not going to lie. But when Dante wrote the Divine Comedy, specifically the Inferno, he had a very specific purpose in doing so. So I did a little research on it and came up with this. The Divine Comedy is the allegorical record of Dante's quest to overcome sin and find God's love. In Inferno, Dante explores the nature of sin by traveling through hell, where evil receives punishment according to God's justice. So, Bryan, you had your own reasons for writing Infernal Fall, and they're really awesome reasons. Could you tell us a little bit how you hoped it would affect readers and how they might find help by reading it?
It all comes back to that cover. A lot of people don't know this, but at a moment, I wanted to take away the little blurb at the bottom that says never lose hope. I thought that it would kind of give away the ending. In a way, that's what Dante does with the Divine Comedy. Anyone who reads it already knows it's going to turn out good because it's a Divine Comedy. And it starts out in the Inferno. So never lose hope is really what the message is. If no one buys the book at all, they can look at that cover and they see that there's a guy falling into a really bad place. There's a woman looking down on him, worried. And it says right there underneath all that, never lose hope. And I was mentioning before, like, we've all been in some bad situations, some worse than others. Most of the time, we make it through those situations and we come out more resilient. And that's what really made me want to, my reason for writing the book. There's an interesting fact that keeps coming back to me, and that's that we are all bioluminescent. We all emit light. And the thing is, we're not supposed to shield our light. We're supposed to let it shine. And that's something that I really push in this book. So the message is, no matter what kind of hell you're feeling, you have control of you. You don't have to let that hell consume you. You can let your light shine, and darkness will run away from you.
Yes. Amen. Like that.
Before we move on to the next question, I know at the end of this we're going to have, open up, a couple questions from the audience that's listening. So if you have questions, think of those, so that you can type them in. You can go ahead and type them in now so that I have them. But I get to be in charge of working with the ARC readers, which ARC readers it stands for Advanced Reader Copies. It's copies that go out ahead of time, that people get to read. It gives us some chance for reviews and stuff ahead of time. And so I get to work with those people. It's been a blast so far. I've gotten to meet some new people from doing that. Gotten to work with some people I've worked with before. It's really cool working with people getting to read these books. But Bryan, you've already gotten feedback from one of our ARC readers, even though I just sent those copies out, days ago. And so this is a really fast reader.
Shout out to Tommy Rivatoso.
Right? Do you want to tell us what one of our readers has already said about your book?
Oh, yeah, I have it framed on the wall here.
Oh, that's awesome!
It really makes me feel good. I also let her know that I would like for her to be a beta reader for the next book, and that's going to be Almost Paradise. Cue the Footloose songs, all that. But, I'm looking forward to the next book, but... here's what Tommy had posted on her Instagram. As her Instagram handle is author Tommy_Michelle. I'll type it into the chat if you guys would like to follow her. She said, I got the awesome opportunity to read an ARC copy of this book in advance. This book is Infernal Fall, of course. And I finished it in 2 days. Yes, it's just that good. A modern twist on the classic Dante's Inferno. Infernal Fall takes you on a journey through hell and back, literally. Visit the Descendant publishing website or Bryan's own website for more information.
Oh, that's lovely. I didn't get to hear that before, that's just great. I love it.
Okay, last question. I've read the book. Stacy's read the book. Dawn, obviously, you've read the book several times, right, Dawn? But I remember there being some really interesting scenes in the book and creatures in the book and in the various levels of hell. And they really painted a vivid picture for me while I read. Would you possibly read a short description of one of the scenes or characters for us?
Well, we've talked a little bit about Charles, and I was going to open up the book with Charles at one point because it kind of happens a little bit earlier, but I chose not to. So I want to read the opening scene where Charles comes in, and you guys will get a good idea of why I'm not going to be the narrator for the audiobook edition.
Right.
All right, so Charles here. This is actually in chapter 2. An hour earlier, about a mile away from where Daniel fell, Charles sat outside his lodge on a dried-up porch, staring at the everlasting dark cloud billowing over the purging mountain range and expanding through the northern sky. Overhead and southward, the pale yellow burn of the day had diminished to orange. Soon it would turn red and then purple. Within hours, the frigid night would envelop Limbo. He longed for the smoke that rose from the valley where he harvested dead souls. None were due in his district today, so he had nothing to do but wait upon his rickety stool, depressing the crown on his pocket watch. The metallic clicking and squealing of the spring pleased him. He clamped it shut and repeated the process. Floating ash came to rest upon the lapel of his gray frock coat. Grimacing, he brushed it off and did the same for the bowler hat propped upon his knee. Seeing that his polished leather shoes remained untainted from the drifting cinders, he returned to clicking his watch. A rotten stench drifted from the judge's quarters. Apparently, the dishonorable Judge Baxter was paying a visit. Heavy footsteps clomped onto the wooden porch. The withering boards groaned, and the stink intensified. Baxter waddled forward as if in the third trimester of some sick pregnancy. "Charles," the judge hissed. A worn black robe stretched over fluffy belly rolls and hung above his rotted gray feet. He patted his stringy white comb-over curls. "A soul needs fetching." "That's not what you said earlier." "Doesn't matter, filthy mutt." The judge's flabby jaw shook. "When I say fetch, you go." "That's not what you said earlier." "Doesn't matter, filthy mutt." Oh, I lost my spot. Mutt. The same could be said for the judge, considering they had both been human once. Charles muttered to himself, "Hypocrite." The judge gritted his teeth. "Do I need to remind you of who's in charge?" Even in his position of authority, the judge had no real clout. The weakest inhabitants of Limbo called him Baxter the Brittle, with no reprisals, but the sooner Charles gave in, the sooner he could enter the valley and breathe in its rich smoke. "You are in charge. You'll do well to remember that." Charles opened his watch. Through the weathered glass, both hands neared the 6 o'clock position from opposite directions. Once they crossed, souls would spew from the mountain's mouth into the valley. "It's an odd hour to be harvesting." "Doesn't matter. Just hurry before I report you." Charles snapped his watch shut. "How many?" The judge shuffled forward. The boards whined with each step. "I told you. A soul needs fetching." "You mean one?" Charles glared. "Since when do we retrieve one at a time?" "One more word." The judge's belly touched Charles's arm. "And I'll have you expelled like all the others before you." "I find it more likely they abandoned their post to get away from you." "Don't make me call the King of Grayton. I will not tolerate insubordination." "Insubordination?" Charles pressed his mouth into contempt and placed his watch into his red vest. He had endured enough of the judge's empty threats. Slowly he rose from his stool and stretched his back. Towering over the judge, he tightened his necktie and canted his hat onto his head. The judge stepped back. "Go. Get to the mountain, or if half of Limbo can call you Baxter the Brittle, I doubt there is much you can do to me." Charles leaned toward the judge and whispered, "I hear you scream every time your bones break. It happens so often, by the slightest of things." Baxter's greasy lips shook. "Go, or kiss your harvesting days goodbye." "Rushing me?" Charles walked toward the judge, who in turn backed away. "If I delay, will you have me banished, Mr. Brittle?" "If you don't go now," Judge Baxter stepped off the porch, "I'll send word to the king." "Send your word." Charles paused at the edge of the porch. "Show him your incompetence, or stop this nonsense and ask me to do my work nicely." "Nicely?" The judge blinked with confusion and then added, "Please then." Charles smirked without the attitude. The scowl on the judge's face twisted into a sarcastic smile. "Please go, and when you return, expect a reassignment." Charles retrieved his watch, peeked at it, and then clamped it shut. "Good enough." Charles stepped from the porch onto the gravel road. The judge's vile stench faded, but his insults traveled well until the sound of crushing pebbles drowned them out. The path cut through dried-out clay plains to the base of the Persian Mountains, just below Charles's valley. And I'll pause there.
Wow, well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the imagery is like super vivid, and that's, you can see why I like Charles. Okay, so Bryan, tell us how to get this book. Again, this is the call to action to make sure that everyone's listening. They know one more time where to go and get it.
Well, right now it's available for pre-order at 99 cents on Amazon. You can just type in Infernal Fall in the search engine and it pops up first. And that's kind of cool because on Tuesday is like 11th if you typed in Infernal Fall. So it's kind of cool that that it's making friends with the Amazon jungle search engine.
And
but the
is.
actual physical copies and the chance to read the ebook if you pre-order it will be available October 25th, a little more than 3 weeks from now. We're getting pretty close. And on that day, it will be available at various online vendors. You can also go to a bookstore and ask them to order it. But the easiest way will be through Amazon at this time for sure.
I heard somebody's also going to be having maybe a release party somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Sunrise, that's in High Point, Sunrise Books. We're going to have a release party on the 29th of October. And I'm willing to branch out and go other places. I'm already looking in some other towns for some friends who've asked me to do a book release for them. So
that's awesome.
We'll see how that goes. But Sunrise is where it's all going to begin. It'll be the first place I do a book release. The first one, so it's going to be fun.
That will be fun. Wish we could be there. Okay, Stacy, remind us about the giveaways one more time.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys do it through this evening. So share this video on your timeline and then come back to the video and comment in the comment section that you shared it and let me know. And then we'll just go ahead and put all the names in a hat and we'll do the drawing for, there's going to be 2 signed copies and the awesome mug that we have here. Again, it is more red than it is brown right here. It's like brownish up top, but then red here. But this thing is gorgeous. I love it. And I want to steal it, so. But yeah, I promised we would not keep this a super long video, so we will wrap this up, I think.
Yep. Did we want to take any last minute questions or comments?
Was there any questions anybody wanted to ask Bryan real quick before we go?
I have one thing that someone can do if they want to. Eddie mentioned it. On my website, you can get the prequel to Infernal Fall for free. It's a short story. It's called No Place Like Home.
Yes. I did see that in the comments. I didn't get to interrupt and say it. Eddie's doing better at my job than I am.
Thank you, Eddie. Do you want to come work for us? Let's see. Also, we have, I think, oh yeah, I totally forgot. There's a book trailer that we weren't able to show tonight.
Yes.
And so I think it's in the comments now.
Oh, is it in the comments?
So yeah, if you want to go and watch that book trailer, I think it's pretty cool. And then also, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, that's Descendant Publishing.
Eddie wants to know, what were the other short stories, though? Were there other short stories?
He might be thinking of, I have some plans that are for an anthology later on. I haven't released them yet. One, I'm just going to wait because I want everyone to get a chance to read the novel first. And if you read the short story, there is another character that came to life really fast, just like Charles did for me, and that is Chance. And I thought it was so fun because I could always have use things like, there's a chance in hell. But I haven't used it yet. I don't know if that's going to be a title of a short story or a series of stories, but there will be a lot of chances later on. So, yeah, that's coming later. I have one sitting that you guys have already checked out, but that's going to come a little bit later.
I went ahead and I posted, if anybody interested in the comments section, I went ahead and posted the YouTube link to the book trailer, if you guys are interested. We really wanted to get that shown on this live to you guys, but it was just far too complicated, and it was going to involve a lot of nonsense, so it was just best to share the link to you guys. Go ahead and go watch that. It is awesome. We really enjoyed seeing that come together.
Yep. And then, Bryan, one more thing before we end up. If you want to tell us what you have in store for the future, is there possibly a sequel to Infernal Fall?
Oh, yeah. It's almost paradise. That's my Footloose reference there. Even we're in Infernal Fall. There's going to be some other things that are going to be happening. And the next book, it's almost paradise. Another little nod to Dante there. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to give too much of anything away on that just yet. It's just a lot of fun to write. I still have a ways to go with it. I'm hoping to finish it up, at least the whole rough draft, by the end of November. I'm going to work on revising and editing on it December and January, and hopefully we'll be ready to pull that together sometime next year.
I swear all you authors are trying to kill me.
You know what that means for Stacy and Dawn, right? More work.
Yeah.
Dawn says I cannot wait. Me, I'm like, slow your roll, boys. Slow your roll.
Well, do you have any final comments for us, Bryan, or should we go ahead and end the live and let people go and pre-order?
Eddie just reminded me of the other one. It was called The Dark Knight. I'm revising that. That's going to be a little novella that's going to kind of pair well with Almost Paradise.
Okay, you're kind of cutting out there. If you could say that one more time.
The other short story that Eddie was talking about, he just messaged me. It's a message about a friend of Daniel. It's a story about a friend of Daniel. That's going to be a while. That's going to come out around the same time as Almost Paradise.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's great. Well, we just want to thank you, Bryan, again for joining our live. Next time, we're going to have this set up and so they can see your beautiful face. And maybe we, can show like the trailer and all that other stuff too. So we'll talk about that later. But we just thank you, all of you, for joining us again on this night. I know it is football season, and most of you are getting ready for bed. So we are going to sign off here and say goodnight, and we will hopefully see you guys again someday in the future. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
See you later.
And see you, Bryan.
I'll see you too.